Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood, life's ups and downs, and all things pop culture that we know you want to talk about.
With special guests and expert insights, we're here to empower you through the chaos of everyday life.
Consider this your ultimate escape from the hustle and bustle, and as always, parental guidance suggested.
Camp is now in session. Welcome back to Camp Chaos. Thank you for joining our episode with Stephanie Toilolo, where she pulls back the curtain of a very serious and debilitating pregnancy condition, hyperemesis. Too often, women are silenced for this condition. We are so grateful Stephanie felt comfortable sharing this raw and vulnerable time in her life. Without further ado, welcome Stephanie.
After San Francisco, did you go to New York after that?
New York.
And that's when you got pregnant.
I got pregnant. So we had been trying. We actually tried for about 2 years. I got pregnant.
Well, his schedule probably didn't help.
His schedule probably didn't help. I think about it.
Please come home. We have to have the baby.
Yeah, I started, especially with age and us waiting. I was like, is it because I'm, they call 35 and older, they call you geriatric.
Isn't it
Advanced
insane?
maternal
It's actually
age?
so
Awful.
disrespectful.
I agree.
Change that
I agree. There are a few perks because you get a few things included
And
in
parking.
insurance and parking, and your NIPT is included. You don't have to pay out of pocket for it. But yes, it's ridiculous that 35 is geriatric
Can we
pregnancy.
rally to change that term? Give me something at least a little bit more enlightening.
I know.
But yeah, so I got pregnant in 2021, June of 2021, and then had our daughter Sunday in February of 2022. So my journey of pregnancy and all that happened while in New York.
That had to be lonely.
Yeah, it was super isolating, to be blunt. And I don't want to just word vomit this negative, extremely hard pregnancy, but it was just really one of the darkest, unexpected times of my life. I knew I wanted to wait to be a mom because I knew when I became a mom, that's what I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. I am proud to wear that title. It is the number one title for me. I'm obsessed with this chapter, and I had prayed that that's what it would be like for me. And I just didn't know, I didn't have that pregnancy glow for sure.
And I think that is okay to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I think those are the conversations that we're trying to have, is talk about the things that we talk to ourselves about in our head. But there's so many other women who have experienced what you did or feel the same way. And I think that there's always been this conversation, or as of late in social media, it's you always have to be so thankful for your pregnancy and you have to be happy, happy, happy. It's you had a very tough pregnancy, and we're going to get into it. But I had a great pregnancy and I didn't love it the whole time. Being pregnant is so hard. And I think it's okay to say, I am so thankful and I am so blessed and I loved every part. But
I feel like shit.
Yeah.
But I think for you, you're probably mourning, and we'll get into your story, but you're probably mourning the fact that I can't wait to be a mom. I can't wait to be pregnant. I finally get pregnant. And then you almost feel robbed of, why don't I feel good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a point where I went through every single emotion and emotions that I still don't even know how to label. Questioning, why is this happening to me? And did I do something wrong? So I had hyperemesis gravidarum, and I'm probably saying that wrong, but we can
say it again.
Hyperemesis gravidarum.
HG.
Also known as HG.
Absolutely. Let's just call it HG.
I think you nailed that
names.
When did you notice that you had that versus just morning sickness?
It was after
from day one.
Yeah. So first trimester ends and I'm still severely sick.
All day, not just morning.
Let me explain. So if you were to Google HG, it's going to say severe morning sickness. And as an hardcore advocate now and
a survivor.
They really need to also let go of that term. So geriatric pregnancy and severe morning sickness we're going to work on, okay? It's just way beyond that. The best way I can describe it is if you have the flu and severe car sickness in one 24/7, the least for me, and this is my experience, and I know there's different levels to it, but for me, the least amount of day or times I threw up would be about 15. The most would be 30 to 40. And I'm not...
Times of throwing up a day?
And that sounds... And this is where I struggle. And I maybe one day I'll get comfortable being able to spew this off. So forgive me for fumbling over my words sometimes, because it still I'm like, did I really live that
It's like a fever dream. Like you think that was like not reality.
Like a fever dream. And how do you even, when you don't have time to share that because you're busy in a toilet, but no one, I didn't need someone to believe me, but I just needed like help, and no one understood what I was going through. And I was coming off, in my brain, right? I was like, am I just coming off as a dramatic pregnant person? Which is what a lot of these doctors, it is just reign true labeling as like a woman who can't handle her pregnancy. And then, so as I'm like learning more about trying to research what is going on with me, because no one was sharing, at this point still, I didn't know what HG was until I had to bring it to my doctor around 5 months. At this point, I had lost maybe 20 pounds. Like I'm going introverted. I showed you picture. At this point, I'm off social media. I can barely look at a TV screen, more or less my phone, not keeping water down. I'm being told at one point, throwing up blood and being told, just, okay, I know we say like, don't eat deli meat, but just eat like a few bites of a ham sandwich. If that stays down, you'll be good. I'm like, ma'am, sir, I'm not keeping water down. And that,
what don't you understand? I can't keep water down.
So prenatal, like vitamins and all that, forget it. As I say this and knowing what I know today, knowing, and honestly to a clear headspace, I felt like I was in survival mode. So I didn't even think of, at the time, like, what can I do? I should be advocating for myself now. Like if I'm pregnant, I know what I need to be doing. You're in control of yourself, right? So like, even I think I just felt at the safety of these doctors, and they're saying, you're going to be fine. And I'm like, okay, I don't know that throwing up blood is fine. And then I'm already deemed high risk. My daughter was having development and growth things going on, like I forgot what they called it, but where you have a hole in your heart and a hole in your brain and fluid so I'm constantly in and out of my OB and these specialty doctors while having HG, but them not listening to me about the HG part.
But wait, didn't they think for a second, okay, this is connected. We're not getting nutrients to the baby.
That. I'm like, I know I'm not a doctor, and I know.
However, I'm not eating.
Yes, and it just like I sit here and I remember being in certain rooms. They also, not that Levine schedule would permit it, but sometimes I would try to have my doctor's appointments to where he would come, and because it was New York and still, 2021, I guess. At this time, they weren't allowing him in my appointments.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm like, so imagine when you have the flu or when you've had your worst sickness, you're out of it. Like you can't function. So here I am trying to function and retain information about her, share information about myself. And I'm supposed to go home and relay this to my husband. Like it just like, am I in the twilight zone? Like what is happening?
It's not even like, oh, I was alone, because you weren't even in your body.
I wasn't even in my body. So at a certain point, I was like, this can't be how it's supposed to be. Or I have something and I felt so dismissed. And so I started to go to the internet, and I'm digging. And I'm like, HG, what is this? And I find this forum of women talking. There's still not a lot of, it's evolved just in the past 2 years. I think there's been an organization called HG Moms that's come about. Women, because of TikTok, sharing their stories. And I found this forum, and I found this Facebook group, which I don't even know the last time I've been on Facebook, more or less a Facebook group. And I'm like, oh, help. Like,
join you, please accept me.
You're like, what helped you? I'm like, not feeling alone and reading the exact same symptoms, the exact same things that I was going through.
Validation
That I wasn't crazy or weak or not able to handle this pregnancy. On top of that, seeing and learning how serious I needed to take it. Women die from this all the time. Miscarriages happen all the time, constantly from HG. So at this point now, I got this information.
Now you could do something.
I'm hoping my doctor can do something. I go to my doctor. I share with them what's going on. And I actually had 2 OBs that would go back and forth. Same practice, just 2 different people. And which was interesting in itself. And I'm sharing, and like, oh, we don't know if you have HG. I'm like, I'm throwing up this amount of times. My husband has had to pick me up off the floor from throwing up constant bile and blood because I have nothing left in my system. Look at me, I'm losing weight. Well, yeah, most women lose weight. Most women throw up. Give it to 6 months. See how we're doing in 6 months. We'll give you Bone-Gesta.
I don't think I can get it to 6 o'clock.
Truly. I was being prescribed just nausea medicine, which there's like a few, Zofran, nothing. Like that was not working. And being told, everything, like the chew ginger, sniff lemons, every hack in the book, order the band, like all that at that point was just extra trash. Nothing was working. It got so serious that they denied me IVs. I looked like seeing what these women in the forums were doing. They were getting IVs from their doctor. Some women were getting hospitalized with feeding tubes. I think this is what I need. I can't tell you the last time I've eaten. Imagine like psychologically what that is also doing to me.
Right. If I don't eat for 8 hours, I'm dying.
And I'm growing a baby.
And you're growing a baby and your brain is, and you're sick. And you're not eating.
And you're without.
Can I tell you guys? Like, I don't think I've ever shared this. My husband's like, no, don't share. So the only thing that I felt that was comforting, and it wasn't really comforting, it was just like a weird thing. The days that I could, something about screens would make everything triggers your nausea. For me, screens, my husband's smell would trigger, like he couldn't sleep next to me. Toothpaste, I couldn't brush my teeth. Like it was crazy what would trigger it. I would just throw up constantly. But screen time was something that would make me really sick. Times that I could kind of look at my phone, I would go on TikTok, and you guys, I would like watch people eat food. Like as if I was like bulimic or anorexic.
Yeah,
truly.
Because
it was like fulfilling like my brain. Like is that not mortifying?
It's so sad.
It's so sad.
And I'd be like, wow.
So sad. And you're just like hoping you're eating. Like you're like fantasizing.
You're like in your head.
You're fantasizing about eating.
And I'm sure there's some psychology, something, some doctor's like, yeah, that's called X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I don't know. I was just feeding my brain. If I can't feed my stomach. It was just so weird and so mortifying. So I shared that with my doctor and still nothing. They denied me IV.
Did you ever like think, okay, I need to switch doctors?
100%. But it was already, what was the reasoning behind that? I think I was just trying to get to a certain point knowing that I was going to come to San Diego and switch doctors.
Because you're in New York dealing with this.
I'm in New York dealing with this. In COVID.
You also can't make a sound decision because you're not eating. Like you don't eat, you don't hydrate,
I'm
you
trying to
can't
look back.
think.
There was reasons, obviously. I'm like, why is no one helping me with this?
How is Levine handling this?
Okay, so I think I'm like looking back at where were we? Also, 6 weeks after I found out I was pregnant, Levine tears his Achilles. So like a week before the season started. And so here we are. I'm looking at my husband in one room, laid up, just had Achilles surgery.
Oh my God.
And he can't help me and I can't really help him. And I remember at one point us kind of just looking at each other and laughing, because what else are you going to do? Mm-hmm. And just be like, okay, like God's saying, like, sit your butts down. Like, this is a season of rest. And I just felt it in my soul. I was like, this is not just a season of rest and not just a season of change as we're going into parenthood. This is a shift. Like, I felt like a tremendous shift, and it has been, and it was for sure. But yeah, I think I'm still trying. I was mourning not being able to be a wife that I had always been as well, and like hands-on for him. And that's not something that he would ever even say that he missed at all. I think you just go in this spiral of you're not able to function in any type of way, more or less, be a wife and me.
You can't be a caretaker or a nurse.
No.
Yeah. You need a caretaker and a nurse.
Oh, 100%.
But with HG, it never gets better, right?
It can for some people. And that's why they say give it to like 6 months, I think is like the typical range in that. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And mine not only just didn't get better, it just kind of felt like it was getting worse. And so
up until you delivered.
Up until I delivered. And even I think I wouldn't put it on HG. I think I put it on like my C-section. And just my body not being able to handle anything that it was, so depleted of so much. So you put in a spinal tap and all these things that my body was getting. I was still throwing up after my C-section, which is very painful.
Very
you ever done
painful.
That?
I did not throw up, but to laugh after my C-section, to like sneeze, forget about it. It's like anything that you don't realize how much of this area you use when you do little things like that. So I cannot
You can't
imagine
even get
her.
out of
No.
So even that recovery, and that's what I always share. And HG just for me wasn't a journey for 9 months. It's still a journey. I'm still dealing with the aftermath of what it did to my back. I have, and I don't know what's from pregnancy or HG, but I know I threw my back out from throwing up so hard. Like the sciatica I have, my skin and hormones were so out of whack and kind of still feel out of whack. My teeth, my gums from bleeding, and that amount of acidity and acid from your, this is really dramatic sounding, I'm so sorry, but bile, and it's hard on your body, right? And then it's hard on your mind. So
is your
PTSD,
okay?
It honestly, I've read that a lot of people's esophagus, I just knew it was going to be destroyed, because even that when I would try to eat, it would all get stuck right here.
And it was coming out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was no way I was leaving the house without bags. But if we had to fly, or if I had it, I remember getting an Uber to go to Levine's surgery. And I always would tell the poor driver, whoever we had, I'm going to go throw up. It's not your driving. I'm just very sick. So can we just turn the music up and I'll roll the windows down? You get really used to throwing up in public places 24/7.
I am so sorry, Steph.
No, don't be sorry.
Remember when you could fall asleep in your makeup and still wake up glowing? Well, for us moms, those days are long over. If you're noticing changes in your skin's tone and texture, maybe you're like me, seeing a few fine lines and wrinkles, you are not alone. But here's the good news. Today's sponsor, OneSkin, has developed a skincare line that targets these changes where they start, your cells. OneSkin's topical supplements are powered by their proprietary peptide OS1, scientifically proven to target the dysfunctional senescent cells that start to accumulate around age 30.
These are the cells that make skin dull, dry, and more prone to lines and wrinkles. Plus, all of OneSkin's products for the face and body, including their new mineral sunscreen, are backed by lab and clinical studies and more than 8,000 five-star reviews.
For a limited time, you can try OneSkin for 15% off using the code CAMPCHAOS when you check out at oneskin.co. Start your new scientifically proven skincare routine today with OneSkin.
Treating the symptoms rather than the root cause of aging has long been the norm. Most skincare available on the market is designed to provide a temporary reduction in visible signs of aging, addressing just the surface symptoms of an underlying decline in skin health.
OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. Get started today with 15% off using code CAMPCHAOS at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code CAMPCHAOS. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support your show and tell them we sent you.
It's just a really sad reality. And I think why we also really want to talk about this is because other women who experience HG, it's so isolating. And you don't know, to your point, if you are crazy, if this is is this part of your stripes that you're earning for pregnancy? Exactly. Is this normal? And so I think hearing even the little things that you're saying about your gums and your teeth and your stomach, I think women who have HG have likely all experienced this. I'm so happy you found a forum on Facebook. I do, when my daughter went through something, that's the first place I went to, which I don't know what Facebook is good for these days, but they are great for support groups. Yes. There's a lot of support
mamas that are going through things in one group, and we're just going to advocate for each other and love on each other. And that's the most beautiful. That's just one motherhood,
Right. Moving forward, when you look at possibly having another pregnancy down the road, are there certain things that you will do ahead of time to help get ahead of HG, which I don't think you really can?
Yes. Yes, to answer your question, I am currently in that stage now that, I should probably try to find a therapist, but that feels taxing in itself. But there is a major level of PTSD. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what kind of PTSD it's called, but even if I'm trying to eat something that I try to eat through my pregnancy, let's say eggs, my brain will feel triggered and I will now get sick. It's
even after, now you're feeling.
I was never like that. If I smell, my husband cannot wear a certain deodorant that he's been wearing for years, but he wore it during your pregnancy. Yes, and I'm talking about it's it's not even about the smell. It's like what that smells like to me and my hormones hasn't faded. Toothpaste sometimes so I share that to say, as I prepare, I do want another child. It's hard to say, yes, it was 100% worth it. And for her, I would do it 1,000,000 times over. Nothing good in life is easy. And this was just my heart. Everybody's heart looks different. Again, too, I really looked at that like it makes me emotional, but on a religious standpoint, God went through so much. Jesus went through so much for us, sacrificed so much, and he calls us his children. And look what pain he chose to endure. I can endure this for my daughter. To have her 9 months, okay, I can do that. The scary part is just knowing, like, now that I have her, what does that journey look like? Because I could not parent before. I couldn't even take care of myself or my husband. How do I take care of a toddler now? Is it fair to her? I think I'm going to, if I have HG, go through a whole nother level of emotions that I don't know that I could handle. And I don't want her to have to handle. And so I joke about the whole therapy thing just from what I went through, but also to kind of prep me for how to handle it in the future, if that's the case. But yes, getting a holistic doctor. I want someone who can help me cleanse my body, get out the toxins, which you should kind of do pre-pregnancy anyways. If you're kind of trying to prep your body, it is a temple. And, you know, I'm a caffeine lover. I'm not a big drinker, but truly just walking out the front door, there's toxins and things everywhere, things we're putting in our body and eating. I can only control so much. So if I can detox for, I think they say like a good 3 months before then trying to conceive, maybe that's going to help regulate whatever it is going on. I don't think they know. They say there was a study, I think done in January, by a doctor who's been doing research on this for 20 years, like silently. She's a genetic doctor.
Of course it's a woman.
And they found a chromosome and they feel like that could be related not only to just HG, but severe, like people who really do have morning sickness. Because, you know, some people do, and some people don't have as hard as the first trimester, to be determined. But until and I know they've come a long way too with, hospitalizing women more. So just finding a doctor that understands it, has dealt with women, that's going to be my priority this time. I don't want to be pumping a lot of medicine in myself. So that's why I will be choosing like the holistic route as far as what I can do to regulate my body. But yeah, just trying to prepare best I can. And then
as a mom this time around.
Yeah, it changes a lot of things.
It does.
Well, speaking of motherhood, how was your shift into parenthood?
Oh, it's good. It's hard. It's so hard.
It's wonderful and it's hard.
It's so wonderful and it's so hard. And I know that's like the most cliche thing to say, but it's just truly the toughest job I've ever had to do. And I don't know that it's tough in the way people would think. If you don't have kids, I remember hearing my friends say, oh, it's just so tough. I'm like, what does that mean? And I view tough as like, I got to keep this little human alive. And it's not just by feeding her and putting her in her car, like the things that you think to keep them alive. No, like this world is terrifying. This world is scary. I trust no one when it comes to that. I'm not putting her in anyone else's care right now. It's just hard. And then they're constantly evolving so fast and growing so fast.
They're teaching you a lot about yourself. You think about I know we talked about this before, but scared of letting her be with somebody else, and maybe because of your pregnancy too. Like you were so scared of losing her, and now it's like
control is bad.
The control that she's here, and you have to have control. And so, what can you do in that?
I was explaining that to my husband too. I think I'm blessed with my husband's family. He comes from a big, beautiful, loving family. Our daughter Sunday is the 8th grandchild. I do not come from that. I come from 2 loving parents that got married at 17 to country. My dad was a Mississippi man and my mom an Alabama girl. And I say that just to say, like, I don't come from a big family. It comes from love, but there's a lot missing there. And as I've grown up, I kind of had to like leave my family and go find myself. And there's a lot of small town things that go on amongst my family that I think it was a lot of control of like, now that I have this daughter, she's like mine, like she's mine, she's my blood. Something was triggered in me for sure that, and I'm not saying it's healthy. Again, I really should do therapy.
We are your therapist today.
Thank you so much. Therapy camp. Yeah. I don't know what it was that was triggered, but for a moment there, that first year with my husband, if someone even held her too long, even someone I loved and trusted, I would go into like crisis mode, and he would be next to me and I would text him so I wouldn't have to say it in front of someone. Like, I need her back. Like she was my I don't know how to explain it. She's just mine.
It's your heart living outside your body.
100%. And I thought that was postpartum, which I'm sure it was. I thought that would dwindle, and it hasn't. Mm-hmm. So that part of motherhood has been extremely hard of navigating. Okay, well, at some point, Steph, she's 2.5 now. She needs to be around other kids, and she is around other kids, but you know what I mean? Whether it's preschool or school for a few hours or, I don't know what that looks like.
Every day as they grow up, you lose more and more control. They get more independence and they just learn new things, and then school and outside influences. But I feel like it's more teaching you.
Yes. And I don't want to hinder her, right? I can't let what I'm dealing with and what I'm going through slow her down. Because she also was born with and I don't know the background of this or how this happens. And it could have been through HG, but she had baby anxiety is what they would just say, like just stressed a little bit with noises, wouldn't be comfortable with anyone else holding her, even grandma who was there all the time. It took her about close to a year for Levine and I think we had maybe 3 date nights that entire first year, because she wouldn't just cry, and to each their own. I'm not a cry it out mom. Mm-hmm. And her cry would go from what would be kind of a normal baby cry to a full on, and a baby sounded like a panic attack, like full on panic. I'm sure someone's listening to this and being like, no, that's just a cry. As a mom, you know what's different.
You know the different cries.
And her calm down would be her regulating, like realizing she needed to calm down, but it would still be like a gasp for air. It was very different.
Did they diagnose her with something?
Yeah, her pediatrician at the time said, this happens in kids sometimes, or babies, and they just labeled it as baby anxiety, which is so weird to me because I always thought anxiety was not self-induced, but things that as an adult, I only know adult
outside influences.
What does a pure baby know? How could you have anxiety? Yes. You're just, all your needs are met.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's from, what did they say? I don't know.
Do you think it could be from the connection of you and her in pregnancy?
And maybe because I clearly every day, there wasn't a day I had peace. I had anxiety through my entire pregnancy. I was just praying, I'll take this HG all day long, but God, please let her live, So I don't
anxiety.
Yeah. And I also believe in, generational anxiety, or not anxiety, but generational just trauma and things that do carry over too. So I don't know. She's outgrown a lot for sure, but it's still there. So I share all that just to say it's harder on my heart to kind of want to leave her in certain circumstances that I just know she's not comfortable, but she's going to have to be uncomfortable in life sometimes. So
yeah, that's a huge factor though. That makes a lot of sense as to why I'm not good leaving my kids either. I barely just started getting help with my son, with my kids, but it's not, I'm such a control. I firmly believe that I am doing the best job with my children.
And you are.
But then I think that nobody else is capable of doing the same, which they aren't. Yeah. But they can help. And there's I think that what I've learned and what we've talked about is there is some sort of, I'm getting a little bit of myself back, releasing a little bit of that control because it was, I wanted no help.
Cost to you, is it draining?
Yeah. Oh my God. Remember I had Sarah Hope. I was like, oh no, I can't do that. Oh no, I can't go out with the girls. Oh no, I can't do this because I have to be with my kids.
And now go to a doctor's appointment.
Can't go to a doctor's appointment.
At a point you're like, okay, wait a second.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there is some sort of balance that will come when you're ready.
Yeah.
I know you didn't have Sunday when you were obviously in New York or like in the league, but can you imagine just like what that would have been like?
Well, it kind of felt that way, not in the league circumstances, but I am glad that I didn't have her in this wild ride that Levine couldn't have been there. I think about it all the time. I see the beauty in it. There's this amazing thing that these little beings get to watch their dads be superstars to them, right? Like how, even though they would never look at them like that, but how cool that they get to look back at those memories that they got to watch them live out a dream. That's very unique. But at the same time, you know, he got to be there every day these past 2 years, and that's priceless. However, our circumstances was unique because we bought a house in 2020 in San Diego. I had never lived in San Diego. I frequented it because my husband's from there. Absolutely. But I had never lived there, and I had never lived in one place with my husband for a year or like long term, right? So I moved into this house that's still being renovated. And by that, I mean literally holes in the walls still, but we had to move in. You know, if people went through renovations or just building a house in 2020 alone, it was a journey, right?
We did that, yeah.
Yeah, so thoughts and prayers. It took a really long time. How to get in the house. So I move in. I know nothing about the area we were living in. We kind of bought blind with the guidance of our agent at the time, which, you know, trial and error, you learn and you grow. That was not the smartest thing to do. But I'm living in an area I never lived in a house I never lived in. I now have a 2-week-old baby, and the world just felt like it had stopped. Like I, again, felt isolated. I think I'm also still dealing with this C-section, this hard pregnancy that I had. Postpartum just kind of hits. And I think all those things at once hit in a unique way. I also realized I just didn't have a community whatsoever. Usually in football, you have your friends and you have this season of life together for 7 months, right? And then the off season happens so fast. You like that disconnect. You still talk to them, but you're hanging with family and other friends that probably live all over. You're taking probably a vacation, a mental break. You're okay with that disconnect.
Sense of normalcy, probably.
Yeah. But you're disconnected and you're okay with that because you know you're about to connect again once the season starts. All of a sudden, that whole first year, I had a full-on disconnect with everyone and everything. And that was something I didn't expect, and that was extremely hard for me. Mm-hmm. Also, watching my husband, not knowing what that looks like for him. Are we going back to football? Are we not? So it was still a unique, I don't know. I just didn't feel at home.
Yeah.
For lack of terms.
But now you're feeling at home.
I'm getting there. Yeah. We just moved.
Just moved again.
I sound so chaotic. I'm not, I swear. We just moved again.
Welcome to the chaotic crew.
It's interesting. And I'm trying to like therapy myself and these certain things. You get this sense, I think social media and maybe certain lifestyles or people accidentally put out this sense of what home is. And you're supposed to find your forever home and build this family and build all these memories and never leave that spot. And that is what success is. And that is what people showcase. That is the dream. And I think I'm coming to terms with, because I didn't think we were selling this home literally within the first 5 years at all. That just like anything, home, one is just where your heart is and where you make it, you know, like a freaking live, laugh, love sign, but that's the truth. And two, it can constantly change and constantly evolve. And you just got to go with the flow sometimes, no matter what does that make sense? What I'm saying? Like, and I say that just to say it took me a minute to be okay with this move. Granted, we moved to an area that we feel excited for. We've chose this area because it feels like there's more of a community there and where we would want to plant more roots. But also that could change in 2 years from now also.
Change tomorrow.
It change tomorrow.
You never know.
We're constantly trying to just kind of figure that out for us.
Yeah. Good thing you have experience with getting up moving, getting up moving.
That almost feels normal.
This is very normal.
It's probably like when you're staying put, like, it's like, oh, this is
It's like, are we okay?
Yeah.
Are we doing everything right?
Yeah.
Wait, before we let you go, I just want to circle back. In Detroit, you said was when you started your business.
Yes.
Share a little bit with us about that.
Yeah, so I had started it a little bit in Atlanta. So as a fashion girly, I say that, not heavy-hearted or anything. I always loved fashion. I think it came with the territory of being in the entertainment business and everything that I just grew up loving. And I was going to my husband's games and watching the women support their significant other, which is so much fun to do, right? Like, who doesn't want? It's like high school when you wear your boyfriend's Letterman jacket. Like, who doesn't
that
love
never
to support
ends.
their,
Yeah.
It never ends.
Yeah.
And it's not even just in sports; it's with anything. Or you have sons and daughters.
We
are
can't
playing
wait.
soccer.
When do we start baseball?
Literally.
Jacket.
What numbers do you want? Let me put it on my back.
So cute. Like,
Can't
I'll
wait.
tattoo it on my forehead.
Yes.
For sure. And I'm watching, and it just wasn't my style. I liked at the time chic, and I wanted to support him, and not in a loud way.
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to do it in a more approachable, minimalistic, like, hey, I'm here to support you and love on you, and this is me
And I also look
being your
cute.
cheerleader. But I wanted it to be classy, and not that bling at the time wasn't classy, or by bling, it was truly the only thing I was seeing was these blinged out jerseys, oversized fan jerseys, or no, that was pretty much it. Maybe a denim jacket here and there, but I was like, yeah, no, that's not my style. And so I started to create and wear things that I wanted to wear. And it hit me that I saw this niche and this gap that was pretty big. And I remember thinking about it in my head. I went to bed one night. I woke up in the middle of the night. The entire name and everything was God-given. I wrote it out in my notes. I'm sure you girls do that. Like, as a creator,
yeah.
like, you're just like, things just
3 a.m. We're both like,
your brain never
texting
turns
each
off.
other. Yeah.
And that's what happens. And like, even to be given the name of my business is called Good Sport, and the mission and what I can't do anything in life when it comes to levels, whether it's entertainment or anything, without what am I going to be giving back to the world? I think that's just should be everyone's ultimate goal, right? Like, sure, you got to have a life and live, but what are we going to give? And what is our footprint on earth? And so I was like, okay, well, I don't want to just have a clothing line. That seems silly and basic. And so I really thought with Good Sport, it's like being a good sport, not just on a field and in sports, but in life. And what does that look like? And having a business that I can build a community amongst the community that I have fallen in love with my husband. So I have something that I started to create clothes that is a game day clothing brand that's customizable, and it was chic and it was minimal. And I chose to do blacks and whites and grays and tans, very neutral colors. So that way, one, you can wear it on and off, like the field, in the streets, whatever you want. But also, a lot of ladies were getting sent to different teams, right? And especially in the baseball world, that happens constantly.
Oh, so your color changes.
Your color changes and your number changes.
I was like, you're hitting me with the neutrals. Yeah, you're speaking my language, but I realize it's because so that you can go to other teams.
Go to other
I
teams.
love that.
And especially also just with a good basic and a neutral, you can style that however you see fit.
Right.
I think, and
You're not buying everything blue.
You're not buying everything
or
blue,
orange,
which is so much fun now. And this was 2017 that I started the concept. And I think the minute we got to Detroit, I really just went full in. I had all the focus and time to do so. And yeah, it was just really one of a kind. And it took on avenues. I really thought I was focusing on the NFL and that niche and what I knew. And it just evolved and expanded. And I've been really blessed to kind of hit even NASCAR to golf to Sports Illustrated Girl. I mean, it's but it's cool because it's a community of women that support you, that we all have this like-minded thing. We all just want to support each other and support that person that we're there rooting for.
Yeah.
And I'm at a transition. I think just like anything, my taste has evolved, my style has evolved, if I were to go to game day now, what would I wear? And that had started to happen for me right before I had Sunday. And then I had a daughter and I just like went full in on her. But I'm at a place now where I'm trying to bring, so my fulfillment center is in Atlanta. I'm trying to bring that out to San Diego, build my team in San Diego. I had these really fun, creative ideas that I've been sitting on for a while that I just want to continue to dive into it and not limit myself and where Good Sport can go. I really see it being not just a game day brand at all. I see Good Sport being like philanthropy and giving back and traveling and doing missionary work through clothing. And I'm still trying to put my finger on exactly what that looks like. But I think I am building a team of people that see like what my heart wants from it. And I'm always big on that, right? Like you ladies had a vision. You're putting this podcast together. It's going to continue to grow and these unique doors are going to continue to open. And I think that's the cool thing about building a business. And I always just suggest if people have an idea, how do I get started? I'm like, just take one step at a time and let it evolve for what it's supposed to be. And I think that's kind of what Good Sport is doing, especially if my husband is going to full on retire. How can I, I'm not wearing game day clothes anymore. So how does this grow the picture?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you also want to still stay in game day attire, I don't think that's going away anytime soon. And I feel like your idea was like ahead of the times. I mean, look at this past season.
Yeah.
You'd be dressing Taylor Swift by next season.
Right.
Can you imagine? It's really, really cool how sports brings the world together, how they bring other celebrities together. And just clothing can do the same.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love being able to infuse, am I speaking? Do the blend of that. And so, we'll see.
Oh my God. Well, we're excited. Steph, thank you so much for being here.
Guys.
Tell everybody where they can find you on socials.
So you can find me at Steph, Toilolo is how you say my last name, Toilollo. On Instagram, same handle as TikTok. You can find Good Sport at Good Sport Apparel. I have Camp Chaos 25 for you guys, for any of you or your followers, your mamas that are getting into soccer and sports, because Good Sport is also for just really anyone that wants to customize and support their little loved one or their big loved one on any field.
And we're picking numbers for the boys.
Yes. I'll send you guys some, but
Thank you.
25% off for the rest of the month for you guys.
Oh my God, you're so sweet.
So shop there. And if you have any HG questions, feel free to DM me and reach out. I'll help the best way I can. I think that's really all the advice when it comes to that I can give, is just knowing that that you're not alone and there's a community there.
There's support there.
There's support, yeah.
Thank you
Thank you guys for having me.
This was
How
so
fun.
Thanks for tuning in to Camp Chaos. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Connect with us on social media at Camp Chaos Podcast.
Until next time, campers.